I never knew nothing about human trafficking. I never knew that I was being exploited. I didn't wake up and be like, oh, this is what's happening to me. It's something that I thought was normal.
80,000 reported missing people on any given day in the United States. At the same time, there are over 10,000 unidentified bodies. There is no national law requiring agencies to share this information, leaving many families in the dark about their loved one's fate.
Today, family and volunteers, they reported cadaver dogs detected a few locations where human remains might have been buried.
You could have a body that was on one side of a county line, and the next county could have had that individual reported as missing, and no one may have talked to each other.
And we just haven't forgotten, and we're not going to stop until we know what happened.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us on the Gone Missing Pod. I am your host, Nicole Mancha Mercado, and you will hear Alyssa Gutierrez, my wonderful co-host, in this episode, but you are also going to hear the voice of someone who may not sound familiar. We had the amazing honor and privilege of being able to speak with Laura Estrada. Laura's niece, Abigail Estrada, went missing in June of 2007, and Laura came on to speak with us more about facts about the case that we didn't know, that hadn't been released, as well as just about Abigail in general. If you want to reach out, if you have any questions, anything like that, feel free to reach out to us on Instagram and Twitter at The Gone Missing Pod or on Facebook at The Gone Missing Podcast. You can also become a patron and support us on Patreon at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves Network and go to The Gone Missing Podcast. It's been so many years. Why they're hesitant to put out information, especially because he's still incarcerated at this point. So right. Why they would be hesitant to put out that information, because I don't think it could do anything but help.
Right.
So he ended up being incarcerated. Was it in 2015 for her murder?
I believe so.
Yeah, I think when I was reading it, I was fairly certain. So what happened? What was different in that trial than the previous one where the charges were dropped?
There wasn't enough evidence. It couldn't stick with the case because there was no murder weapon and there was no body. And then there wasn't actually no witness. So the 2017 case, there was witnesses.
Okay. That came
And
forward.
then one of them, being my nephew, he did take the stand of the night of the drive-by shooting. So that helped.
Good. Yeah.
And then the day right before a hearing, one of the witnesses got a threat. This is what I was told. He got a threat while Ruben was in jail, in the city jail. He talked to somebody that was there that got a hold of his cousin and told his cousin if he was going to speak at the trial, that he's going to have something done to him if he spoke up. So that morning of the trial, the cousin backed out.
Wow.
So is Ruben just very well connected? I also, forgive me, I have a lot of family in Texas, but I'm not really familiar with how big these places are besides like San Antonio, Dallas, and Houston. I'm not like, is Harlingen like a pretty small area? Do a lot of people know each other? I guess I was trying to understand how he was so connected, because at 16 to 20, whatever, you know what I mean? Like, that's just, he seemed to have a lot of connections to get information outside of where he was at.
Yes. From what my sister-in-law told me, they have a big family there.
Okay.
They got doctors, they got lawyers, I believe somebody in the law enforcement as well. Mm-hmm. And his father was a big gun owner, sold a lot of guns. Not sure if they were gang affiliated, but they did have a lot of connections and people that they knew. And that's one of the reasons I believe that he got such a short sentence.
Yeah.
And people are just afraid of them. When the first time the first week, I believe, or second week, when I found out she was missing, I went out there to Harlingen, and I went out and passed flyers. I went, to the malls, all the specific spots that young kids hung out at. And I did come across a store, and it's in a neighborhood. And this lady, it was a family-owned store. I gave her the flyer, and she goes, "Yeah, I'm aware everybody, the community knows that she's missing. She goes, but I'm going to tell you right now, it's not safe for you to be out here, especially with all the kids. Because I had Abigail's younger siblings with me, helping me pass out flyers. She's like, that family is not a family to mess with. And I thanked her, but at that time I had no fear.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have fear of them. I wasn't scared, but it did startle the kids, and they didn't want to pass out any more flyers. And we went to the park and posted some there, and that was it. Like, we ended the day.
I do want to really quickly say, like, I hope that you know how much what you've done means to her. Even if she's not here with us anymore, like, the fact that you were there and doing everything that you did, like, truly can't even imagine, because you put your own safety at risk for her. And, like, you are the Thea that all of us aim to be. Like, you know what I mean?
That we all need to.
That we all need.
Yeah, thank you.
I
The whole 13 years, that week that before she left to Harlingen, I had lunch with her. It was 2 days before she left. The whole 13 years of her life, she's never told me she loved me up until that day we had lunch. That was the first and last time, like, I ever heard her say it. So it really took a toll on me. It stuck to me, like, she loved me, so I have to do everything and anything to try and find her to this day.
You are doing truly such amazing work. And I'm also sure that your brother appreciates all of the work that you're doing for his daughter. I feel like Alyssa and I don't have children, but we both have nieces and nephews and things like that. And I think the way that we show them that we love them and also show our siblings how much we love them is by treating them like they're our own. And going and doing the work for that. And you are doing the work. You're not someone that's just saying it. You're showing it in what you're doing. And I'm sure he so appreciates that as well.
And exactly, how you said that you were out there. I mean, on countless episodes, I'm saying the same thing you are. I would be doing this and I would be doing that. Fearless, oh no, I would be doing exactly what you were doing. Fearless. Okay, let's go. I almost want to see the family now. Like, come on. Yeah.
So in this time, obviously, I did see that he's up for parole in just a few years. I mean, and I'm sure that if you listen to the episode, I really struggle with a lot of things, right? I struggle with children being tried as adults, but then I also am like, but this is not a child act, right? Like, you're making really adult decisions at this age. When he goes in and for good behavior, I don't know what good behavior you can do to lessen a murder charge. Like, I don't know what you're doing that's considered good behavior. So his parole, when it comes up, is that something where you want to be there to make sure you can make a statement on how it's affected your family?
I do. I've asked Justinian to let me know when that time comes. They're supposed to call her. I'm hoping that they would give me a call as well, because I don't want him out. I mean, to me, he deserves life. Any murderer, you take away somebody's life, then you owe yourself a life in jail. You basically gave your ticket to jail. You should spend the rest of your days there and suffer, because that person that you took out of life had to suffer. I mean, I can't judge, but you took away a life, and not only that, destroyed many other lives. Destroyed her family. We never got to see her graduate. We never got to see her go to prom. Married, have kids, took away everything from us.
And in regards to that too, how has the relationship within the family been? Like how, because I think about it as like when someone passes away, even in the best of terms, it can still pull family members apart, you know, because of whatever surrounds that. Because when someone passes, it's like there's so much that goes with them. And in this case, it was so violent. She was so young, and you already had family not living all in the same place, which already can cause, you know, some separation. How is your relationship with Yesenia and your other nieces and nephew?
I'm still pretty much close with them. We don't gather like we used to, of course, because my brother and her are no longer together. But you know, there's birthdays or holidays. Of course, pre-COVID, we did, you know, try to celebrate everybody's birthday. But there's no what can I say, resentment towards each other. They're all still close. I mean, our family, that is the foreground of our families. We all stick together no matter what. Of course, there is some distance because they're growing up and having their own lives now. They're adults. So, but it hasn't changed anything. They all have love for one another. There's no blaming. There's no blaming. It's just something that Jasenia was caught off guard of the manipulation.
Yeah.
You know, being single parent with her mother at the time, and you know, raising 4 kids. Here comes this guy, you know, lavishing money and you know, putting a good front on himself that I'm a good boyfriend for your daughter, you know, and then manipulating the children. Like, okay, I could be the guide figure in the family, you know, that they got it, you know, they got comfortable with him. But just
Oh, sorry, you're muted.
was it the person that he said he
Yeah. Was there any sort of indication prior to her going missing or anything like that to the abuse? Like, I mean, I tend to think that there was some sort of manipulation abuse before that. And maybe there wasn't. It just, in a lot of these cases that we see, it starts somewhere. Maybe it's small, but it starts somewhere. Did she ever see anything like that kind of was like, that's a little strange to me that this boy is doing this to my daughter? Or was it very like he was just really subtle about it?
Not to my knowledge. Jasena never told me how he was towards her, like as far as just like a regular teenage relationship. They were in love. That was what she saw, and that's what she told me. I mean, I don't know what happened behind the doors.
Right.
I mean, of course, because I lived here in Austin and they were in Harlingen, but I don't know if he did anything behind closed doors.
Yeah, we talk a lot about love bombing and narcissism and domestic violence because unfortunately that's just a lot of the cases that we cover. And love bombing is super, super common in the start of it where, you know, I'll buy you things and I'll do these wonderful things for you. And it all comes so fast. And to a 13-year-old, I mean, here's the thing. It happens to 30-year-old women, right? So it can happen 100% to a 13-year-old because she thinks she's safe. And this guy just loves me. So he wants to do all these wonderful things for me and my family. And that probably meant a lot to her at the time. And then for it to spiral into this whole thing, I think that's where a lot of our confusion came from, because obviously when we were looking over the case, it kind of made it seem like at this point everything was fine and he was part of this case, but she was there and she was, you know, supposed to be in Harlingen. And then we find out, no, she was actually in Austin and was not supposed to be there. So it's like they were doing everything to keep her safe, but she's 13, so she's going to find a way if she wants to get where she wants to be. And he managed to convince her that she should be there with him. And I truly hope that when his parole comes up that he does not get out, because I agree with you 100%. You don't just get. My thing is you may have she was 13 at the time, but you took her whole life. You didn't just take 13 years. You took her whole life. You took every experience from her and then took it away from her loved ones as well. and you don't get a slap on the wrist for that. And my biggest concern that we have in this country, we don't do rehabilitation. Most people who end up going to prison become better prisoners, right? Like they're just going to become better at that. And it's not everybody, but he's already showing that he's going down this road of a drive-by and then violence against Abigail. I can't imagine if he gets out, he would do anything positive.
Right.
So how can you look at that and just be like, well, he's been great here? It's like, well, yeah, it's easy to be better when you're in a cell with a very regimented schedule. And it's difficult to be that type of person coming out into a new world as well, because even in 7 years, 8 years, 10 years, think of the way technology has changed. The world has completely changed. I mean, the pandemic has also changed this world entirely. So to come out and then just, I don't know, I just get really frustrated when I see that, because I don't understand how we can just say, well, good behavior, he's fine. That doesn't compute for me.
Right. And I don't even get how he got good behavior. My thing is that, like I said, they knew people in law enforcement. And I'm thinking that, everybody says that money talks. And that's what I'm thinking. That's what occurred. Maybe some corruption as well in the police force. I mean, I can't actually say it did, but that's what it points to. I mean, I've never heard of a case that you get good behavior, like especially with murder. It just doesn't occur. Like this is the only case I've ever heard that you get good behavior for murder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it didn't seem like they took his age into account, so that's why it didn't make sense to me, because they were trying him as an adult, so I don't see how we could take, his age into account at the time. If we're trying him as an adult, then why would any of those factors of like good behavior be even in the realm of a possibility to get out sooner?
Right.
So I wanted to give you a little bit of time to just talk about what you hope for in the future to be able to, I know you want to find Abigail, but are there any sort of things that you're hoping people can look out for or give information about, or is anything specific that you're looking for? We are not like a major, huge podcast, but we do have a bit of a platform. So we're hoping our listeners are also going to be able to keep an eye out for anything as well.
Well, I do hope that the witnesses that were involved in the case that eventually may have spoken to somebody and said something of her whereabouts, and that those people would come forward, anonymously. I do have a reward to be given. I don't want to announce what it is, but if they come forward, there is a reward. Reason being, money shouldn't be an object. It shouldn't be the I'm going to get a reward if I tell you where she is. It should be in your heart as a human, as humanity. If this was your niece, your daughter, your sister, that you would come forward. So I have never announced the reward, only because you should do it as a human and do it in your heart to come forward. So I'm hoping that this podcast and, I can get other resources to help me, that someone would come forward in her whereabouts or her remains. I mean, she deserves to be buried properly with burial services and, with prayer and with the family being, together. I know there's some people in my family that, they kind of disagree. They want to just, let it be. She's up with the Lord. But to me, I can't let that be. I want to give her a proper burial and do it the right way. I'm never going to give up as long as I'm here. I've actually kind of put it on hold, reaching out. I do want to reach out to different resources, but I myself are having health issues right now. So I kind of put it, I can't say to the side, but I put it on hold. I do want to continue to try and find her.
I think I really understand where you're coming from in that sense, because there is something when we've done this is that I would just want to be able to put her to peace. Like, you can't, there's something about, there's a reason that in so many different religions, you need to put them to rest. It's because you're putting them to rest. And she deserves that. She deserves that justice. And she deserves that resting peace. And your family deserves that closure. Because there is something about not having that closure and not being able to put her where she belongs that kind of prevents you in some ways from being able to move forward. So I completely understand, but you also need to take care of your health. So we're hoping that this podcast and, this platform that we can put this out there. We both have a lot of family in Texas. So I'll make sure that, I reach out to my family and ask them to share because they live in that area. I'm just the lone one that lives in Chicago with the other side of the family. We moved to the coldest place we could. Yeah. But, I have a lot of family. I mean, really south, like Laredo. So we're we're way there. But we definitely want to share more about her case, and we'll repost all of her pictures. If there are certain pictures that you have that you would like us to repost, we can do that as well. Because you're doing so much work and you shouldn't feel like you're alone in this. And that's why we do this podcast. We just want to make sure that people don't forget, Abigail's name. They don't forget her face, because she was a daughter, a niece, a sister to so many people that clearly love her so much, because you're still here talking about her and remembering her. And that's just honestly such a beautiful thing to see.
Yes, thank you. You mentioned Laredo, which brought back something else I wanted to say briefly.
Yeah.
When Ruben and his father were caught coming back from Mexico, they're said to believe that he has an uncle that's in Mexico, and that may be the field that she is in. That was a rumor as well that that's where she is. She may be buried in Mexico as well. So reaching out to folks in Laredo would help. As far as pictures, you're more than welcome to use the ones that are online.
Okay.
Those were the ones that we posted out. There's very few pictures that we are keeping personal just for the family. So the ones that are out there, you're more than welcome to use from the internet.
Okay. Great. We will definitely put those up. And like I said, we will share wherever we can and get people to see her face. And hopefully, we can try to get some more answers for you. Obviously, we can't promise anything, but we're definitely want to help in any way that we can. And we're so glad that you were able to talk to us and make this happen and really just talk about Abigail. Because she does sound like such a beautiful person and such a light in people's lives. And you can tell who a person is when people show up the way that you show up.
Thank you.
Of course. Thank you so much for talking to us today. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add or to talk about? I know that you had given out like a tip line, or a phone number. Did you still want to provide that, or did you want us to direct people to the Harlingen Police Department?
Yes, they go directly to Harlingen Police Department.
Okay, we'll be sure to add their number too.
Yeah, just to speak to them, and everything is you remain anonymous. Even when you call in a tip, you can be anonymous. I just hope that friends and family that knew Ruben Torres find it in their hearts to come forward and give us that peace. I mean, I'm trying to find it in my heart to forgive him. I mean, because I'm Catholic. That's what you're supposed to do. But I think the only way I can forgive him is if he let us know where her remains are so we can lay her to rest in peace.
And forgiveness takes whatever time it takes. You know what I mean? Like, it takes whatever time it takes. And even if you don't, it doesn't make you a bad person. Look at the work that you're doing. Look at what you're doing for Abigail, what you're doing for your family, because it doesn't just affect you and it doesn't just affect her. You're doing this for your entire family to provide peace and justice and rest. And it's amazing. It's amazing. You are the person that we all hope to be.
Thank you. And I want to thank all of you for welcoming me onto the show, to this podcast. I try to get the word out. And I really thank you on behalf of other families for doing this. I mean, you just never know who's listening, whose attention we'll get. Not just Abigail's case, but all the other missing children. There's so many children in this world that are gone missing and yet to be found. So what you guys are doing is an awesome job. And I just hope that, someday somebody hears this podcast or any other podcast that you guys have and just be like, hey, we need to give this family, some peace. And we know just a little bit of information, just, hey, we saw her get in a car, or we saw, it's just something that somebody saw. And if just that little piece will bring a case, to closure and give families peace.
Absolutely. I think that's the one thing we say in every episode. Somebody saw something. Somebody
Yes.
knows something. And as scary as it may be, I think that as humans, it's our duty to help other humans. Like, my goal in life is always to be a better human than I was yesterday. And I think that should be all of our goals.
Yes, it is. It's my goal.
Thank you so much for being here and being so vulnerable and just honest. And truly, this is an honor for us to be able to do this and to be here. And I'm sure you can imagine it can be really difficult to talk about these cases every week because it's just sad. It's really sad. But to be able to do this and provide a platform and just say, hey, we want you to be here and talk about this person you loved so much, it makes us keep going and trying to do this for other families as well.
You're welcome.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Gone Missing podcast. Feel free to reach out to us on Instagram and Twitter at the Gone Missing Pod or on Facebook at the Gone Missing Podcast. You can also become a patron and support us on Patreon at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves Network and go to the Gone Missing Podcast.